Have you ever walked past something 1,000 times, maybe an old building, a faded painting, or even a well-known landmark, without realizing it holds a secret from history? Imagine discovering that the truth was right there, waiting in plain sight all along. That's the magic of the past. Sometimes the most extraordinary mysteries aren't buried in hidden tombs or locked behind ancient doors. They're tucked away in the everyday, the overlooked, the things we thought we knew. And once you see them, history will never look the same again. Take the Great Sphinx of Giza, for example. It's one of the most recognizable monuments in the world, standing guard over Egypt's deserts for thousands of years. But did you know there's a hidden chamber beneath its pores, mentioned in ancient texts and confirmed by modern scans? Or that the Sphinx's original face might not even be the one we see today. For centuries, these clues were right there, staring us in the face, literally. And the Sphinx is just the beginning. From cryptic symbols carved into city streets to long-forgotten messages hidden in famous artworks, history is full of secrets that were never really lost, just ignored. That's what makes uncovering these hidden truths so thrilling. It's not just about solving the puzzle, it's about realizing how much we've missed, how much of the past is still whispering to us if we know where to look. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain on 30 of history's most astonishing secrets, the kind that will make you question everything you thought you knew. These aren't just footnotes in a dusty textbook, they're game changers, the kind of revelations that rewrite stories and reshape our understanding of the world. So settle in, because by the time we're done, you'll be seeing history, and maybe even your own surroundings, with entirely new eyes. Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper is more than just a masterpiece, it's a puzzle disguised as a painting. At first glance, it depicts a familiar biblical scene, Jesus sharing his final meal with the disciples, but look closer and the details start to whisper secrets. For centuries, historians, art sleuths, and even code breakers have studied every brushstroke, convinced that Da Vinci hid layers of meaning beneath the surface. Some theories are startling, others controversial, but all of them challenge the way we see this iconic work. Take the figures at the table, for example. Most scholars agree that the person to Jesus' left is John the Apostle, often shown with a gentle, almost feminine appearance. But a vocal group of researchers believe that figure might actually be Mary Magdalene, her posture and positioning suggesting she held a far more significant role in the story than traditional narratives admit. This theory, popularized by books like the Da Vinci Code, hinges on subtle clues: the way her robe drapes, the space between her and Jesus, even the shape of her hands. Whether you buy into the idea or not, it's impossible to ignore how deliberately Da Vinci composed every element, as if daring us to look deeper. Then there's the symbolism hidden in plain sight. The spilled salt near Judas's elbow, a nod to ancient superstitions about betrayal. The fish on the table, some argue it's not just a meal but a reference to early Christian symbolism. Even the architectural details in the background, the vanishing point, the placement of windows and doors have been analyzed for hidden geometry, with some claiming they form coded musical notes or sacred mathematical ratios. And let's not forget the most tantalizing mystery of all, the missing knife. In early copies of the painting, a knife appears in Peter's hand, but in the original fresco, it's vanished without explanation. Was it painted over? Did it symbolize violence yet to come? Or was it another one of Da Vinci's riddles? What makes these secrets so compelling isn't just the thrill of discovery. It's the realization that the Last Supper was never meant to be a simple religious scene. Da Vinci was a man obsessed with layers, with duality, with the spaces between what we see and what's truly there. Every brushstroke feels intentional, every shadow a potential clue. And the longer you stare, the more you wonder, how many of these secrets did he plant deliberately, and how many are we just imagining? That's the genius of it. Even after 500 years, the painting refuses to give up all its answers. Beneath the towering majesty of the Great Pyramids, where tourists crane their necks to admire the ancient stones, lies another world entirely, one that's remained hidden for millennia. While the pyramids themselves have been studied for centuries, their deepest secrets don't rest in the chambers we can see, but in the labyrinth of tunnels and voids snaking beneath the desert floor. Recent breakthroughs in technology, like ground-penetrating radar and advanced scanning techniques, have peeled back the layers of time, revealing a network of passages that defy everything we thought we knew about these iconic structures. Take the so-called Big Void, a mysterious cavity discovered in 2017 deep within the Great Pyramid of Khufu. Stretching nearly 100 feet long, this hidden chamber sits directly above the Grand Gallery, yet there's no obvious way to access it. Was it a structural necessity, a forgotten burial space, or something else entirely? The ancient Egyptians were masters of misdirection, often building false corridors and sealed doorways to protect sacred spaces. Some researchers believe these tunnels could lead to undiscovered tombs, perhaps even the final resting places of pharaohs whose burial sites have never been found. But why go to such lengths to conceal these passages? The answer might lie in the Egyptian obsession with the afterlife. To them, death wasn't an end but a journey, and every pyramid was a machine designed to guide the soul through the underworld. Hidden tunnels could have served as symbolic pathways, mirroring the treacherous routes described in the Book of the Dead. Others speculate they were practical safeguards, secret routes for priests to perform rituals or store treasures away from grave robbers. There's even a fringe theory suggesting some tunnels align with celestial events, acting as star maps to guide the pharaoh's spirit to the heavens. What's most tantalizing is how little we've actually explored. For every chamber we've uncovered, there are likely dozens still waiting, their entrances deliberately obscured by the pyramid's architects. Modern archaeologists tread carefully, knowing that each discovery could rewrite history. Imagine uncovering a tunnel leading to an untouched burial chamber, its walls covered in unknown hieroglyphs, its artifacts untouched for 4,000 years. That's the thrill of these hidden spaces. They're not just relics of the past, but invitations to a story we've only begun to piece together. And with every scan, every new tunnel mapped, we're one step closer to hearing what the ancients meant to keep secret. In a quiet corner of Yale University's Voynich Library lies a book that has baffled scholars, cryptographers, and even wartime codebreakers for over a century. Known as the Voynich Manuscript, this mysterious tome is filled with looping, alien-like script and illustrations of plants that don't seem to exist, celestial charts that defy known astronomy, and eerily detailed drawings of naked women bathing in green liquid. Since its discovery in the early 20th century, not a single word of its text has been definitively decoded, making it one of history's most stubborn enigmas. The manuscript's pages are a feast of contradictions. Some sections resemble an herbalist's guide, with delicate renderings of unfamiliar flora accompanied by dense paragraphs of text. Others feature intricate astrological diagrams, their symbols mismatched with any known tradition. Then there are the so-called biological sections, where female figures float in interconnected tubes of liquid, their purpose utterly inscrutable. Even the script itself is a puzzle, a flowing, almost musical alphabet of characters that appear nowhere else in recorded history. Over the years, everyone from medieval scholars to modern AI systems have tried to crack its code, only to hit dead ends. Even the legendary codebreakers of Bletchley Park, who deciphered Nazi messages during World War II, threw up their hands in defeat. So where did this bizarre book come from? Carbon dating places its creation somewhere between 1400 and 1430, likely in northern Italy, but its authorship is pure speculation. Some believe it was the work of a con artist crafting an elaborate hoax to sell to a wealthy patron. Others argue it's a genuine scientific or alchemical text, written in a cipher so complex that its key has been lost to time. There's even a theory that it's the product of a lone, perhaps unstable genius, a 15th century outsider artist pouring delusions onto parchment. The most tantalizing clue might lie in the illustrations themselves. Botanists have spent decades trying to identify the manuscript's plants, with some suggesting they're encrypted representations of real species. Their features scrambled to hide their true identities. Others think they're entirely fictional, symbolic of alchemical processes or spiritual concepts. And then there's the Rosetta Stone theory. A single plant resembling a sunflower wasn't known in Europe until after Columbus's voyages, implying the manuscript could be far newer than its vellum suggests. Or was the artist privy to knowledge that shouldn't have existed at the time? What keeps researchers obsessed isn't just the challenge of deciphering the text, it's the unsettling possibility that the Voynich manuscript might not have a solution. Maybe it's glossolalia, the written equivalent of speaking in tongues. Maybe it's a medieval experiment in artificial language. Or maybe, just maybe, it's the one secret history has decided never to give up. Every failed attempt to crack it only deepens the mystery, reminding us that some doors, no matter how hard we knock, stay firmly shut. High in the arid plains of southern Peru, etched into the desert floor with almost surgical precision, lies one of archaeology's most enduring puzzles, the Nazca Lines. These enormous geoglyphs, some stretching over 1,000 feet, depict everything from spiders and hummingbirds to geometric shapes, so vast they can only be fully appreciated from the air. For decades, researchers have debated their purpose, but one theory stands out as particularly compelling. These sprawling designs might be a giant astronomical calendar, meticulously aligned with the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. Look closely at the way certain lines intersect. The famous arrow, for instance, points directly toward the winter solstice sunset, while other shapes align with the rising of key constellations during planting or harvest seasons. To the ancient Nazca people who thrived between 200 BC and 600 AD, these celestial events weren't just markers of time. They were sacred, tied to rituals, agriculture, and even water sources in this brutally dry landscape. Some researchers suggest the lines acted as a kind of open-air observatory, where priests could track cosmic cycles to predict rains or guide ceremonies. The precision is staggering. Many alignments hold up to modern astronomical calculations, hinting at a sophistication we're only beginning to understand. But there's another layer to this mystery, one that veers into the realm of the extraterrestrial. In the 1960s, writer Erich von Däniken popularized a controversial idea. What if the Nazca Lines weren't just for earthly eyes? Their sheer scale, visible only from high above, led some to speculate they were landing markers or signals for ancient astronauts. While mainstream archaeology dismisses this as fringe, it's hard to ignore the eerie coincidence that many glyphs mirror shapes found in modern runway designs. Could there be a grain of truth hidden in the theory, or is it simply our modern imagination projecting onto the past? What makes the Nazca Lines so fascinating isn't just their size or artistry. It's the unanswered question of how and why a civilization without flight created something meant to be seen from the sky. Were they messages to the gods, maps of invisible water sources, or perhaps a mix of both, blending practicality with spirituality in a way we've yet to fully decipher? Every new study, whether using drones, satellite imagery, or soil analysis, reveals another clue, but the desert keeps its secrets close. And until we uncover the full story, these ancient drawings remain a silent testament to a people who looked to the stars and saw more than we ever imagined. Off the foggy shores of Nova Scotia, shrouded in whispers of pirates and lost riches, lies a small island that has consumed fortunes and lives for over 200 years. Oak Island, a name that sends chills down the spines of treasure hunters, holds one of history's most infamous enigmas, the Money Pit. This deep, waterlogged shaft, tangled with elaborate traps and cryptic clues, has lured everyone from Franklin Roosevelt to modern drilling teams, all chasing the same tantalizing question: what lies buried beneath layers of oak logs, coconut fiber, and flood tunnels designed to drown anyone who digs too deep? The story begins in 1795, when a teenager named Daniel Maginnis noticed a peculiar depression in the ground with an old ship's pulley hanging from a tree overhead. Along with two friends, he started digging only to hit a layer of oak planks every 10 feet. As they went deeper, seawater suddenly flooded the shaft, forcing them to abandon their efforts. This wasn't just a hole in the ground, it was an engineered labyrinth complete with channels that connected to the ocean, designed to protect something precious. Over the next 2 centuries, expeditions would uncover even stranger clues: a stone inscribed with mysterious symbols, fragments of parchment, even a human hand severed by an early excavator's shovel. But whose treasure was it? Theories range from the plausible to the fantastical. Some believe it's the lost loot of Captain Kidd, the notorious pirate who supposedly hid his plunder along North America's coast. Others argue it's the missing treasury of the Knights Templar, smuggled out of Europe during their persecution. There's even a wild claim that Shakespeare's original manuscripts lie buried there, wrapped in lead to protect them from the acidic soil. The most compelling evidence might be the coconut fiber found deep in the pit, a material utterly alien to Canada, suggesting the builders came from tropical shores. Yet for all the speculation, Oak Island guards its secrets ruthlessly. Modern technology has revealed underground chambers and artificial voids, but each excavation seems cursed by misfortune. In 1861, a boiler explosion killed a worker. In 1965, a man drowned when a shaft collapsed. Even today, drills hit metal only to bring up fragments too corroded to identify. The deeper we dig, the more the island fights back, as if the past itself is determined to keep its mysteries. What makes the Money Pit so haunting isn't just the potential treasure. It's the meticulous craftsmanship of its defenses, the sheer effort someone went through to ensure their secret stayed hidden. Whether it holds gold, religious relics, or something far stranger, one thing's certain: Oak Island isn't done with us yet. Every broken drill bit, every flooded tunnel, is a reminder that some stories refuse to end, and some enigmas demand to outlive us all. When Howard Carter first peered into Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, the world marveled at the golden treasures spilling from its chambers. But what if the real secret wasn't in what they found, but in what they missed? Decades later, radar scans of the tomb's walls revealed something startling: hidden voids, their dimensions too precise to be natural. These shadowy spaces, tucked behind murals and sealed corridors, have reignited a century-old question: could King Tut's burial place hold more than just a pharaoh's sarcophagus? Archaeologists have long suspected that Tutankhamun's tomb feels oddly modest for a ruler of his stature. Unlike the sprawling, intricate tombs of other pharaohs, his burial chamber seems almost rushed, like an afterthought. That's led some experts to propose a tantalizing theory. The boy king might have been laid to rest in what was originally meant as a queen's tomb, with his true burial chambers still hidden nearby. High-resolution scans conducted in 2016 showed 2 distinct anomalies behind the north and west walls, their shapes suggesting man-made corridors or chambers. One space even appears to contain organic material, possibly wood or papyrus, fueling speculation that it could house untouched funerary artifacts or even another sarcophagus. But whose remains might lie there? The most electrifying possibility is Nefertiti, Tutankhamun's legendary stepmother, whose own tomb has never been found. Some Egyptologists argue the tomb's layout mirrors designs linked to her reign, and the hidden chambers could be part of a larger, connected complex. Others propose it might hold Kia, another royal consort, or even the undisturbed treasures of a lesser-known noble. Then there's the wild card. What if the voids are simply storage rooms, packed with the overflow of grave goods that wouldn't fit in the main chamber? The debate hinges on more than just curiosity. Opening these chambers, if they exist, would require dismantling priceless murals, a risk Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities has so far refused to take. But technology might offer a compromise. Advanced imaging techniques like muon tomography could soon peer through the stone without a single scratch, revealing whether these voids are archaeological mirages or the next great discovery. Until then, the walls of Tutankhamun's tomb keep their secrets, reminding us that even the most famous relics of history might still be hiding their true stories. Stonehenge stands as one of history's most iconic puzzles, a ring of hulking stones that has dominated England's Salisbury Plain for over 4,000 years. Most of us know it as a primitive astronomical calendar, its pillars aligned with the solstices. But what if that's only half the story? Hidden in plain sight are clues suggesting Stonehenge was part of something far grander, a forgotten blueprint that stretched across the landscape, connecting earth, sky, and even the underworld in ways we're only beginning to uncover. Take the alignment of the so-called station stones, 4 lesser-known markers positioned outside the main circle. These stones don't just frame the horizon, they create perfect right angles, forming a rectangle that mirrors the moon's most extreme rising and setting points over an 18.6-year cycle. This precision isn't accidental. It hints at a sophistication beyond simple sun worship, pointing to a culture that tracked celestial patterns with eerie accuracy. And then there's the heel stone, the massive sentinel just outside the circle. At dawn on the summer solstice, the sun rises directly over it, but shift your gaze slightly, and you'll notice its sides are carved with faint dagger and axe shapes, symbols found in burial sites across Europe. Were these markers of death, rebirth, or something darker? But Stonehenge's secrets don't stop at its stones. Beneath the grass lies a network of hidden pits, some filled with animal bones and antler picks, tools used by the builders. These pits form their own patterns, suggesting the monument was once surrounded by a vast, ritualistic landscape. Archaeologists have even discovered traces of wooden posts predating the stone circle, hinting at an earlier, equally complex design that was later replaced or expanded. Some theorize Stonehenge was the heart of a ceremonial highway, linked to nearby sites like Durrington Walls and the mysterious Superhenge buried beneath it. The most tantalizing clue might be the blue stones, the smaller, bluish-gray rocks hauled over 150 miles from Wales. Their journey defies logic. Why transport 80 massive stones across rivers and mountains when local rock was abundant? One theory suggests they were chosen for their unique acoustic properties. When struck, they produce metallic ringing sounds, possibly used in rituals. Another claims they were healing stones, brought to the site by pilgrims seeking their rumored curative powers. But perhaps the boldest idea is that the blue stones were markers of ancestral territory, physically linking Stonehenge to the sacred hills of Wales in a gesture of political or spiritual unity. What's clear is that Stonehenge was never meant to be understood in isolation. Its true significance lies in the connections between earth and sky, between the living and the dead, between places separated by vast distances. Every new discovery peels back another layer, revealing a design so intricate that modern researchers are still playing catch-up. Whether it was a temple, a tomb, or a celestial clock, one thing's certain: the stones we see today are just the skeleton of a vision far more expansive, one that its builders took pains to encode in plain sight, waiting for us to piece it together. Diving into the depths of the Aegean Sea in 1901, sponge fishermen stumbled upon a shipwreck that would rewrite history. Among the shattered statues and corroded coins lay a lump of bronze, its gears fused together by 2,000 years of seawater. At first glance, it seemed like little more than scrap, but after decades of painstaking restoration, this unassuming artifact, now known as the Antikythera Mechanism, revealed itself as the most sophisticated piece of ancient technology ever discovered. Far from a simple clock or navigational tool, This intricately geared device could predict celestial events with pinpoint accuracy, track Olympic cycles, and even model the irregular motions of the moon. It wasn't just ahead of its time, it was millennia ahead. The mechanism's genius lies in its labyrinth of interlocking bronze gears, some as thin as a coin, others precisely cut with teeth numbering in the hundreds. These weren't just random cogs, they formed a miniature cosmos mirroring the erratic dance of planets as observed from Earth. One gear, for instance, used a pin and slot system to replicate the moon's wobbling orbit, a feature so advanced that nothing comparable would reappear until mechanical clocks in the 14th century. Researchers using 3D imaging have since decoded inscriptions on its fragments, revealing functions like eclipse predictions and planetary positions. But here's the jaw-dropper. The device even accounted for the 4-year cycle of the ancient Olympics, blending astronomy with cultural events in a way that feels eerily modern. So why did this groundbreaking technology vanish for over 1,000 years? The answer might lie in the turbulent era that followed. The mechanism dates to around 60 BC, a time when Rome's rise was eclipsing Greek innovation. As libraries burned and scholars scattered, the knowledge required to build such devices may have slipped through the cracks of history. Some theorize it was the work of a lone genius, perhaps inspired by the legendary inventor Archimedes, who reportedly built celestial globes a century earlier. Others argue it was part of a broader tradition, with similar mechanisms lost to time or still lying undiscovered in other shipwrecks. What makes the Antikythera mechanism truly haunting isn't just its complexity, but the questions it leaves unanswered. Was it a teaching tool for philosophers, a navigational aid for wealthy merchants, or something more profound, a physical manifestation of the ancient Greek belief that the universe ran like clockwork, its secrets encoded in gears and mathematics? Every new scan, every decrypted inscription peels back another layer of its mystery, and as we marvel at its precision, we're left wondering, if this was what they could create 2,000 years ago, what other marvels have been lost to the sea or to time itself? Towering over the Black Hills of South Dakota, Mount Rushmore is more than just a patriotic landmark, it's a monument with a secret. Most visitors gaze up at the 60-foot faces of Washington, Jefferson, Roosevelt, and Lincoln, unaware that behind Lincoln's stoic visage lies a hollowed-out chamber, untouched and forgotten. This hidden room, known as the Hall of Records, was the brainchild of sculptor Gutzon Borglum, who envisioned it as a vault safeguarding America's most important documents for future civilizations. But why was it never finished, and what, if anything, was left inside? Borglum's original design was far grander than what we see today. He dreamed of a massive staircase leading up to the mountain summit, where visitors would enter a grand hall lined with bronze and glass cabinets holding the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and other foundational texts. The chamber was meant to be a time capsule of democracy, a message to the distant future about the ideals that shaped the nation. Construction began in the late 1930s, with workers carving a 75-foot tunnel into the rock behind Lincoln's head. But progress was slow, and Borglum's ambitions soon collided with reality. Funding dried up as World War II loomed, and when the sculptor died unexpectedly in 1941, the project was abandoned. The tunnel remained incomplete, its entrance sealed with rubble. For decades, the Hall of Records faded into myth until 1998, when a team of researchers finally ventured inside. What they found was a far cry from Borglum's vision. Instead of gleaming cases of historical treasures, the chamber held only a few porcelain tablets inscribed with summaries of U.S. history and the monument's construction. These were placed there in the late 90s as a symbolic nod to Borglum's dream, but the room itself is rough-hewn, its walls bearing the chisel marks of unfinished labor. Yet the mystery deepens when you consider the rumors. Some claim the original tunnel goes much farther into the mountain, with side passages rumored to hold artifacts or even additional chambers. The abandoned hall raises a tantalizing question. What if Borglum's vision wasn't just about preserving documents? Some historians argue the chamber was meant to elevate Mount Rushmore from a sculpture to a sacred site, a modern-day equivalent of the pyramids or the Capitol's hidden crypts. Others suggest it was a sly rebuke to the nearby Lakota Sioux, whose sacred land the monument controversially occupies, a way of literally carving white American history into their ancestral mountains. Whatever the truth, the Hall of Record stands as a metaphor itself, a reminder that even our most visible monuments guard secrets, their full stories waiting just beneath the surface. And while the chamber may never hold the nation's founding papers, its very existence whispers a quieter truth that history is never just what we see, but what we choose to remember and what we let fade into the stone. For centuries, explorers and scholars have scoured the globe for the lost city of Atlantis, Pluto's legendary island civilization swallowed by the sea. But what if we've been looking in the wrong place? Hidden in the heart of the Sahara Desert lies a formation so bizarre, so eerily perfect, that it's reignited one of history's greatest debates, the Richat structure, a massive circular feature in Mauritania that some researchers believe could be the real Atlantis. At first glance, the Richat structure, often called the Eye of the Sahara, looks like a giant bull's eye etched into the desert with concentric rings stretching nearly 30 miles across. Geologists long assumed it was an ancient meteor crater, but closer study revealed something even stranger. The rings aren't impact scars, they're layers of eroded rock, sculpted by millions of years of wind and water. Yet when you compare this formation to Plato's description of Atlantis, the similarities are uncanny. He wrote of a city built in concentric circles of land and water, with a central island surrounded by alternating rings, a layout that mirrors the Richat's natural terraces almost exactly. Even more intriguing, Plato placed Atlantis beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which some interpret as the Strait of Gibraltar, putting the Sahara well within the realm of possibility. But geology alone doesn't tell the whole story. Satellite images reveal what appear to be the remnants of human activity within the structure, rectangular formations that resemble ruins and odd alignments that don't look entirely natural. Archaeologists have even found scattered artifacts nearby, stone tools, pottery shards, and evidence of ancient rivers that once turned this now barren region into a lush, habitable landscape. Could this have been the fertile plain Plato described, where Atlantean kings grew crops in abundance before their downfall? The theory isn't without its critics. Skeptics argue that the Richat's rings are purely geological and that Plato's story was allegorical, not historical. But proponents counter with another tantalizing clue: ancient maps. The medieval Catalan atlas, created in 1375, depicts a circular city in West Africa labeled Atlantis, right where the Richat structure sits. Was this a coincidence, or did the mapmakers know something we've forgotten? What makes this mystery so compelling isn't just the possibility of finding Atlantis. It's the idea that history's greatest legend might have been hiding in plain sight all along, waiting for us to see the desert through Plato's eyes. Whether the Richat structure is Atlantis or simply a geological marvel, one thing's certain: it's a reminder that the Earth keeps its secrets well, and sometimes the truth is stranger than the stories we tell about it. William Shakespeare's plays are celebrated as timeless masterpieces, but beneath their poetic surface, some researchers believe they conceal a labyrinth of hidden messages, codes that might reveal everything from political scandals to the true identity of the playwright himself. Take the famous phrase, "to be or not to be," from Hamlet. On the surface, it's a meditation on life and death, but certain scholars argue it could also be a cipher, its letters rearranged to spell out clandestine references to Elizabethan court intrigues. This theory, known as the Baconian cipher, suggests that Shakespeare's works were peppered with acrostics, anagrams, and numerical patterns pointing to Sir Francis Bacon as the real author. While mainstream academics dismiss it as coincidence, the sheer frequency of these patterns keeps the debate alive. Then there's the curious case of The Tempest, a play brimming with descriptions of shipwrecks and distant islands. Some historians propose it's a thinly veiled commentary on the Bermuda voyages, with the character Prospero symbolizing explorer William Strachey. Even more tantalizing are the references to the still-vexed Bermudes, a phrase that mirrors Strachey's own accounts of the Bermuda colony, details Shakespeare wouldn't have known unless he had access to private, unpublished reports. Could these echoes be deliberate, a way for the playwright to smuggle real-world events onto the stage without attracting the censors? But the most explosive theory revolves around Shakespeare's possible connection to the underground Catholic resistance in Protestant England. In Macbeth, the infamous Porter's speech includes coded references to equivocation, a term linked to Jesuit martyrs who used wordplay to evade persecution. Similarly, King Lear's subplot about a mad king and divided kingdoms mirrors the fraught succession crisis of Queen Elizabeth I's reign. Was Shakespeare subtly siding with the losing faction, embedding dangerous truths in plain sight? The authorship question adds another layer. For centuries, skeptics have questioned how a man from Stratford with no formal education could produce such erudite works. Some point to anomalies in his will, no mention of books or manuscripts, while others highlight the missing years of his life, periods unaccounted for in historical records. Alternative candidates range from aristocrats like the Earl of Oxford to groups of writers collaborating under a single name. The most compelling clue might lie in the first folio's dedication, which references a hidden genius and a never-dying name, phrases that fuel speculation of a concealed identity. Whether these theories hold weight or not, they reveal something profound about Shakespeare's enduring power. His words are so rich, so layered, that they invite us to look deeper, to question what might lurk between the lines. After all, in an era when speaking truth could mean losing your head, hiding messages in plain sight wasn't just clever, it was survival. And if the bard really did weave secrets into his verse, perhaps the greatest one is this: the stories we think we know are never quite what they seem. In the late summer of 1590, a ship returning from the New World brought England a mystery that has haunted historians for centuries: the Roanoke colony. The first English attempt at permanent settlement in America had vanished without a trace. All that remained of the 115 men, women, and children were a few abandoned shelters and a single word carved into a wooden post: Croatoan. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just that enigmatic clue. To this day, no one knows for certain what became of them, but modern archaeology is piecing together a story far more complex than mere disappearance. The colony's governor, John White, had left for England just before winter to secure more supplies, delayed by war with Spain for 3 long years. When he finally returned, he found the settlement eerily empty. The houses had been dismantled, not destroyed, suggesting a planned departure. The word Croatoan was likely a reference to a nearby island and the Native American tribe that lived there, the Croatan. Some believe it was a message, a deliberate signpost left by the colonists indicating where they'd gone. But why leave no other trace, and why, despite White's efforts, were they never found? Recent excavations on Hatteras Island, once known as Croatoan, have uncovered tantalizing evidence. Archaeologists have unearthed European artifacts mixed with Native American tools, a 16th-century rapier hilt, a slate writing tablet, and even a signet ring that may have belonged to one of the settlers. More tellingly, some of these objects show signs of repurposing, like metal fragments reshaped into fishing hooks or jewelry. This suggests not a violent end, but integration. The colonists may have split into smaller groups, seeking refuge with the Croatans or other tribes as supplies dwindled and hope of rescue faded. Yet another theory points inland. A map drawn by John White, long overlooked, was recently examined under ultraviolet light, revealing a hidden symbol, a faint patch covering what might be the location of a fort 50 miles west of Roanoke. Could some of the colonists have tried to move deeper into Algonquian territory? soil samples from the area show elevated levels of English pottery fragments, and local oral histories speak of white-skinned ancestors among certain tribes. But without definitive proof like human remains with European DNA, the truth remains just out of reach. What makes the Roanoke mystery so enduring isn't just the unanswered questions. It's the haunting possibility that the colonists didn't vanish at all. They might have melted into the land, becoming part of the very story they'd come to write. The word Croatoan wasn't a cry for help or a final farewell. It could have been a lifeline, a breadcrumb left behind to say, "We're still here. You just have to know where to look." And with every shard of pottery, every whispered legend, we're one step closer to seeing them clearly at last. Beneath the grandeur of St. Peter's Basilica, beneath its gilded domes and marble saints, lies a shadow world few ever see, a labyrinth of hidden passageways, sealed chambers, and vaults so restricted that even most Vatican officials have never stepped inside. These aren't just service tunnels or forgotten crypts. They're the veins of an empire pulsing with centuries of secrets. At the heart of it all, the legendary Secretum Archivum, a clandestine archive rumored to hold everything from suppressed gospels to documents so explosive they could rewrite history. The Vatican's hidden corridors have long fueled speculation, but their existence isn't just myth. Take the Passetto di Borgo, a fortified escape route linking the Vatican to Castel Sant'Angelo, used by popes fleeing danger since the Middle Ages. Or the Necropolis Vaticana, an ancient burial ground hidden beneath the basilica where early Christians, and possibly even St. Peter himself, were laid to rest. But the real intrigue lies deeper in the Archivio Segreto Vaticano, literally the secret Vatican archive, a repository spanning 53 miles of shelves. While portions have been selectively opened to scholars, the archive's most sensitive sections remain locked behind doors marked with ominous labels like Armadio degli Scheletri, the skeleton cupboard. What could justify such secrecy? One persistent theory points to the Secretum Archivum, a subsection allegedly housing documents deemed too dangerous for public knowledge. Whispers suggest it contains everything from the original trial records of the Knights Templar, possibly revealing the true reason for their destruction, to correspondence between popes and figures like Genghis Khan or Michelangelo. Some even claim it holds apocryphal texts like the Book of Enoch, which describes fallen angels teaching humans forbidden arts, or early Christian gospels excluded from the Bible for political reasons. The Vatican denies the Secretum Archivum exists, but the denial itself feeds the mystery. Perhaps the most tantalizing clue comes from a slip of the pen, or rather, the sword. In 2012, during a rare exhibition of archive documents, researchers spotted something odd in a letter from Pope Clement V to the Templars. The parchment bore tiny pinholes along its edges, as if it had once been attached to something larger, something removed. Was this a fragment of a fuller record, its contents still hidden? Or evidence of deliberate censorship? The answer, if it exists, likely lies in those unreachable depths. The Vatican's walls have kept their secrets for a reason. In a place where power and faith intertwine, some truths are considered too volatile to unleash. But every so often, the past sends up a whisper, a half-deciphered manuscript, a corridor accidentally uncovered during renovations, reminding us that history's most guarded stories aren't lost. They're waiting, and somewhere beneath the holy city, in a vault no outsider has seen, the keys to those stories may still be turning. Few stories in history spark as much intrigue as the lost treasure of the Knights Templar. This powerful medieval order, originally formed to protect Christian pilgrims, amassed staggering wealth, only to vanish overnight when their leader was arrested on Friday the 13th, 1307. But here's the twist: when King Philip IV's forces raided Templar strongholds, they found no gold, no jewels, just empty vaults. So where did it all go? The answer might lie in cryptic clues left behind and in the shadowy rumors that followed their downfall. Take the Templars' sophisticated banking system, for instance. They essentially invented modern finance, issuing letters of credit that allowed pilgrims to travel without carrying gold. This meant their wealth wasn't just stored in chests, it was networked across Europe, hidden in plain sight. Some believe that in their final days, the Templars smuggled their fortune to remote locations like Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland, where carvings of cryptic symbols and unfamiliar plants might hint at buried secrets. Others point to Portugal, where surviving members regrouped under a new name, the Order of Christ, with ships that later funded the Age of Discovery. Could explorers like Vasco da Gama have been sailing with Templar gold? Then there's the mystery of their fleet. The Templars owned ships, yet none were ever found after their dissolution. Persistent legends claim some sailed west, possibly reaching North America long before Columbus. Oak Island's infamous Money Pit, with its elaborate booby traps and 15th-century artifacts, has even been linked to Templar activity. Could their treasure lie beneath that cursed ground, guarded by flood tunnels designed to outlast the centuries? But the most compelling clue might be the Templars' own rituals. During their trials, arrested knights described ceremonies involving a mysterious head, worshipped in secret. Some say it was the mummified skull of John the Baptist. Others claim it was a relic with supernatural powers. Whatever it was, it vanished without a trace. Could this have been the true treasure, something far more valuable than gold? The Templars' legacy is a puzzle with pieces scattered across continents, hidden in chapels, encoded in maps, and whispered in legends. And after 700 years, we're still searching, because if history has taught us anything, it's that the greatest treasures are rarely where you'd expect. Buried deep beneath Turkey's otherworldly landscape of fairy chimneys and cave churches lies a secret that defies imagination, an entire underground world carved from soft volcanic rock. Cappadocia's subterranean cities aren't just simple caves. They're elaborate multi-level metropolises stretching hundreds of feet into the earth, complete with stables, wineries, chapels, and even ventilation shafts that still function today. The largest, Derinkuyu, could house 20,000 people along with their livestock for months at a time. Its massive stone doors sealing invaders out like something from an ancient doomsday vault. What drove people to build such extraordinary refuges? The answer lies in the region's turbulent history. For centuries, Cappadocia sat at the crossroads of warring empires: Persians, Romans, Byzantines, and later Arab invaders, all vying for control. The underground cities became sanctuaries during raids, with residents vanishing beneath the earth at the first sign of danger. Some tunnels connected multiple cities across miles, creating an escape network far more sophisticated than mere hideouts. Passages were designed to be navigated in pitch darkness by those who knew the turns, while deadly traps awaited intruders, rolling stone wheels that could crush advancing armies, or holes in ceilings where boiling oil could be poured. But the most startling revelation isn't how they hid, it's how they thrived underground. Ingenious engineering kept these cities habitable for extended periods. Vertical air shafts, some over 200 feet deep, ensured fresh oxygen circulated even on the lowest levels. Water was drawn from hidden wells tapping into underground rivers, while cleverly positioned chimneys disguised cooking smoke as natural surface steam. Some chambers even had adjustable acoustics, allowing voices to carry clearly between floors, an ancient intercom system. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of vineyards, olive presses, and communal kitchens, proving these weren't temporary shelters but self-sufficient civilizations beneath the soil. Why did these cities fade into obscurity? As Cappadocia's surface settlements grew more secure, the need for subterranean living dwindled. Many entrances were deliberately concealed, their existence passed down only as local legend until a chance discovery in 1963, when a resident renovating his home knocked through a wall and stumbled into the sprawling depths of Derinkuyu. Even now, less than half the known tunnels have been fully explored, with geophysical surveys suggesting more cities may lie undiscovered. What lingers in these echoing stone halls isn't just the ghostly imprint of ancient footsteps. It's the unsettling realization that entire chapters of human resilience have been quietly buried, waiting for us to peel back the layers of rock and time. Today, standing in one of these cavernous chambers, you can almost hear the whispers of generations who lived entire lifetimes unseen, their stories written not on parchment but in the very bones of the earth. High above the Nile, on the ceiling of an ancient Egyptian temple, lies a map not of the earth but of the cosmos. The Dendera zodiac, a breathtaking bas-relief carved over 2,000 years ago, seems at first glance to depict familiar constellations: the Bull of Taurus, the Lion of Leo, the Scales of Libra. But look closer, and the stars may be pointing to something far more extraordinary. Some researchers believe these celestial diagrams aren't just decorative. They could be encrypted records of real-world events, lost cities, or even forgotten astronomical phenomena that we've yet to fully decipher. Take the peculiar arrangement of the planets in the Dendera zodiac. Unlike modern star charts which show planets orbiting the Sun, this ancient wheel positions them in impossible alignment, unless, as some theorists suggest, it's capturing a specific moment in time. One controversial interpretation points to a catastrophic celestial event around 10,000 BC, when a comet or asteroid may have sparked global floods. The zodiac's unusual groupings could be a warning, a way for the ancients to preserve knowledge of past disasters for future generations. Others argue the constellations are actually symbolic markers for terrestrial locations, with certain star patterns corresponding to sacred sites along the Nile or distant lands like Atlantis. Then there's the mystery of the missing stars. The Dendera zodiac includes celestial bodies not visible to the naked eye, like the star cluster Pleiades, which appears with uncanny precision. How did the Egyptians chart these without telescopes? One tantalizing theory suggests they inherited knowledge from an even older civilization, one that mastered astronomy long before the pyramids rose. The temple's walls reinforce this idea, covered in carvings of the goddess Nut swallowing the sun, a metaphor for eclipses and strange, disc-like objects that some interpret as advanced celestial instruments. But the most provocative clue lies in the zodiac's margins. Faint hieroglyphs often overlooked by tourists describe the time before time and the gods who came from the sky. These phrases echo similar inscriptions found in Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley, as if multiple cultures were documenting the same celestial secrets. Were they sharing knowledge across continents, or independently recording something extraordinary they'd witnessed? The answer might be written in the stars themselves if we learn how to read them. What makes the Dendera zodiac so compelling isn't just its beauty, but its stubborn refusal to fit neatly into our understanding of history. It's a reminder that the ancients saw the night sky not just as a spectacle, but as a library, a calendar, and perhaps even a map, one we're only beginning to trace with modern tools. As astronomers today discover exoplanets and cosmic events the Egyptians could never have imagined, we're left to wonder, did they know more than we've given them credit for? And if so, what other messages are still hidden in plain sight, waiting among the stars, deep beneath the winding streets of modern Moscow? One of history's greatest literary treasures might still lie hidden, the fabled lost library of Ivan the Terrible. This legendary collection is said to hold priceless manuscripts from Byzantium, some of the rarest texts of the ancient world, possibly even lost works of Aristotle or Plato, all hauled back to Russia as spoils of war when Ivan married the niece of the last Byzantine emperor. For centuries, treasure hunters and scholars have chased whispers of this secret trove, but the library remains as elusive as ever, buried somewhere in the labyrinth of tunnels beneath the Kremlin, or perhaps even under the city's oldest neighborhoods. The legend begins with Ivan himself, Russia's infamous Tsar, who ruled with equal parts brilliance and brutality. In 1570, he allegedly ordered the construction of a vast underground vault beneath the Kremlin to safeguard his most prized possessions, including a hoard of ancient books supposedly rescued from Constantinople before it fell to the Ottomans. These weren't just ordinary texts. They were said to include lost chronicles, scientific treatises, and religious writings that could rewrite entire chapters of history. But after Ivan's death in 1584, the library vanished without a trace, leaving behind only cryptic references in old court records and the frustrated accounts of scholars who'd glimpsed fragments of the collection before it disappeared. The first serious hunt began in the 18th century when Empress Catherine the Great dispatched teams to scour the Kremlin cellars. They found nothing. Then, in the 1930s, Soviet archaeologists uncovered a hidden passage beneath Red Square, its walls lined with empty shelves, but no books. The most compelling clue surfaced in 1997, when workers renovating a building near the Kremlin stumbled upon a subterranean chamber filled with 16th-century maps and architectural plans. One drawing showed a network of tunnels converging beneath an old church, marked with a symbol resembling a key. Was this a blueprint for Ivan's library? Before anyone could investigate further, the site was abruptly sealed off by government officials, sparking rumors of a cover-up. Why has the library stayed hidden for so long? Some believe it was deliberately concealed during times of political upheaval, its entrance bricked up to protect it from looters or rival factions. Others argue the real obstacle isn't secrecy, it's the sheer complexity of Moscow's underground. Over the centuries, layers of construction, floods, and even secret Soviet-era bunkers have reshaped the labyrinth beneath the city, making any systematic search nearly impossible. There's also the sobering possibility that the library was destroyed long ago, its priceless texts reduced to dust in some forgotten flood or fire, yet the search hasn't died. Modern technology has brought new hope. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed unexplored voids beneath Kitay-Gorod, one of Moscow's oldest districts, while thermal imaging hints at chambers hidden behind the walls of existing Kremlin basements. Archivists still pore over Ivan's letters, searching for coded references to the library's location. And then there's the persistent legend of the Cursed Scroll, a manuscript said to be tucked among the lost books, one that, according to folklore, drives its readers to madness. Whether myth or reality, the lost library of Ivan the Terrible remains one of history's most tantalizing mysteries, a ghostly archive waiting for the right moment or the right explorer to bring its secrets back into the light. Renaissance art might seem like a celebration of beauty and harmony, but scratch beneath the gilded surface, and you'll find whispers of rebellion, vanity, and coded messages hiding in plain sight. Take Botticelli's Adoration of the Magi, a seemingly straightforward biblical scene. Look closer, and you'll spot the artist himself staring back at you from the crowd, his gaze direct and unmistakable. This wasn't just artistic flair, it was a quiet revolution. In an era when artists were seen as mere craftsmen, embedding self-portraits into sacred works was a brazen claim of status, a way to say, "I belong here too." But vanity wasn't the only motive. Sometimes these hidden faces carried dangerous political weight. In Raphael's school of Athens, tucked among the philosophers, lurks the likeness of Michelangelo, a rival Raphael supposedly despised. Was this an inside joke, a dig at Michelangelo's brooding personality, or a sly acknowledgement of his genius? Even more daring was the habit of slipping critics or enemies into unflattering roles. In Piero della Francesca's Resurrection, the soldier sleeping at Christ's tomb bears the face of the local tyrant, a mocking jab at his oblivious arrogance. For artists working under the watchful eyes of patrons and the church, these were acts of quiet defiance veiled in brushstrokes. Then there's the mystery of the Arnolfini portrait by Jan van Eyck. Most focus on the couple's solemn vow, but the real intrigue lies in the convex mirror on the back wall. Reflected in its tiny surface are two shadowy figures, one likely Van Eyck himself witnessing the scene. His Latin inscription above the mirror reads, "Jan van Eyck was here," turning the painting into a signed legal document and a self-referential puzzle. Was he asserting his presence as an artist or embedding himself as a divine witness to the marriage? The boldest secrets, though, might belong to Caravaggio. In David with the Head of Goliath, the severed head isn't just a biblical villain, it's Caravaggio's own face contorted in agony. Painted while he was a fugitive for murder, it's a raw confession, a plea for mercy etched in chiaroscuro. Here, the hidden portrait isn't just clever, it's a scream in paint. What makes these concealed faces so gripping isn't just the gotcha moment of spotting them. It's the realization that Renaissance art was never just about what met the eye. Every glance, every hidden smirk was a calculated risk, a way for artists to claim power, settle scores, or confess sins without saying a word. And centuries later, their secrets still lean out from the canvas, waiting for us to notice. Among the most enduring enigmas of the modern world are the symbols and rituals of the Freemasons, a brotherhood whose influence has been whispered about in the halls of power for centuries. From the eye and pyramid on the U.S. dollar bill to the intricate compass and square motifs adorning old courthouses and cathedrals, their imagery is woven into the very fabric of history. But what do these symbols actually mean? And how did a society of stonemasons evolve into a network rumored to pull the strings of revolutions, design cities, and even guard ancient secrets? Start with their most recognizable emblem, the all-seeing eye, often depicted within a triangle or atop an unfinished pyramid. While some dismiss it as a simple metaphor for divine oversight, others trace its roots to the Egyptian god Horus or even older astronomically aligned cults. Freemasons themselves describe it as a reminder of moral accountability, but conspiracy theorists see something far more sinister, a sign of the Brotherhood's alleged control over governments and banks. This duality is key to understanding Masonic symbolism. What appears as benign philosophy to initiates might look like a coded power map to outsiders. Their rituals deepen the mystery. Initiates undergo elaborate ceremonies involving blindfolds, symbolic tools, and staged deaths and rebirths. Practices some link to medieval guild traditions, while others connect to much older mystery schools of antiquity. The infamous third-degree ritual, where candidates reenact the murder of the legendary architect Hiram Abiff, has fueled speculation for centuries. Was Hiram a stand-in for other historical figures, like the slain Templar leader Jacques de Molay? Or does the ritual encode practical knowledge, like the geometric secrets of sacred architecture? Then there's the Freemasons' fingerprints on history. Many of America's founding fathers, Washington, Franklin, Hancock, were proud members, leading some to argue that the U.S. was deliberately designed as a Masonic republic. Look at Washington, D.C.'s street grid. It's dotted with occult alignments, from the pentagram formed by major avenues to the obelisk of the Washington Monument, a clear nod to Egyptian mysticism. Across the Atlantic, London's financial district and even the layout of Paris bear similar hallmarks, with Masonic lodges often positioned at key geometric nodes. Coincidence or evidence of a grand design? But the most tantalizing theory involves the Brotherhood's supposed guardianship of lost knowledge. Some researchers claim the Masons inherited fragments of esoteric wisdom, perhaps from the Templars, the builders of Solomon's Temple, or even earlier civilizations. Their symbols, they argue, aren't just decorative but a visual language preserving everything from alchemical formulas to pre-flood cartography. The compass and square, for instance, might represent more than moral balance. They could encode celestial ratios used in sacred geometry, the same mathematics found in pyramids and Gothic cathedrals. Whether you view them as enlightened philosophers or shadowy puppet masters, the Freemasons' true power lies in their ability to straddle both worlds. Their symbols endure because they're fluid, open enough to inspire spiritual seekers, yet cryptic enough to fuel endless speculation. And that's the genius of it. Their secrets aren't locked away in vaults. They're carved into the corners of our cities, printed on our currency, hiding in the one place no one thinks to look right in front of us. The Great Sphinx of Giza has watched over the desert for millennia, its weathered face hiding secrets beneath layers of eroded limestone. But what if the real mystery isn't what we see but what lies beneath? For decades, researchers have debated the existence of hidden chambers buried under the Sphinx's massive paws, a theory fueled by ancient texts, modern technology, and one man's controversial prophecy. Start with the physical clues. In the late 1980s, seismic surveys and ground-penetrating radar revealed anomalies beneath the Sphinx's front half-rectangular cavities that don't match natural rock formations. One chamber, roughly the size of a small bus, sits directly below the statue's front legs, its purpose unknown. The most tantalizing lead comes from an account by the Roman historian Pliny the Elder, who wrote of a concealed tomb beneath the Sphinx accessible only to initiates. Even the ancient Egyptians themselves left hints. A stele erected by Pharaoh Thutmose IV describes a dream where the Sphinx promised him kingship if he cleared the sand from its base, suggesting there was something worth uncovering. Then there's Edgar Cayce, the so-called sleeping prophet, whose trance-induced visions in the 1930s spun a wilder tale. Cayce claimed the Sphinx guarded a vault called the Hall of Records, an archive of Atlantean knowledge buried by a lost civilization. According to him, this chamber contained crystalline tablets detailing advanced technologies and human history predating Egypt itself. While mainstream archaeologists dismiss Cayce as a mystic, it's hard to ignore the eerie coincidence that his predictions align with the detected voids. Modern excavations have only deepened the intrigue. In the 1990s, a team drilling near the Sphinx's paws struck a hollow space filled with sand and water, a possible sign of an artificial shaft. More recently, thermal imaging detected temperature fluctuations in the bedrock, hinting at hidden passages. But the Egyptian government has tightly controlled further exploration, leaving researchers to speculate. Could these chambers hold Thutmose's lost treasures, the Atlantean library Cayce described, or something far stranger? The Sphinx's greatest secret might be how little we've actually searched. For every scan or probe, there are layers of bureaucracy and unbroken seals keeping the truth locked away. Whether it's a pharaoh's stash, a forgotten temple, or a legend given form, one thing's certain: the sands of time aren't done shifting. And until those chambers are opened, the Sphinx will keep its silence, smiling as it has for thousands of years, knowing we're standing right above the answers. For nearly 500 years, Viking settlers thrived on Greenland's jagged coastlines. Farmers, hunters, and traders who built stone churches, raised livestock, and even exported walrus ivory to Europe. Then, in the 15th century, they vanished without a fight, leaving behind intact homes, undisturbed graves, and a mystery that still baffles historians today. The abandoned settlements of Greenland's Norse colonists aren't just relics of a lost time. They're a frozen snapshot of a society that somehow slipped through the cracks of history. Walk through the ruins of Valsey Church, its thick stone walls still standing after 7 centuries, and you'll find no signs of war or fire, just empty pews and a silence that begs the question, what went wrong? The traditional explanation points to the so-called Little Ice Age, a period of plummeting temperatures that would have made farming impossible, but recent archaeological digs tell a more nuanced story. Soil samples reveal that the Norse stubbornly clung to their European farming traditions, raising cattle and sheep even as the growing season shrank, while the neighboring Inuit thrived by adapting to seal hunting and fishing. Pride, it seems, may have been their downfall. Then there's the mystery of the ivory trade. Greenland's prosperity depended on shipping walrus tusks to Europe, where they were carved into luxury goods for the elite. But when cheaper elephant ivory flooded the market in the 14th century, demand collapsed. Excavations of trash heaps show the Norse kept hunting walrus long after it mattered, their stockpiles of unsold tusks gathering dust. Did economic desperation drive them to sail west, searching for new lands? Inuit oral histories speak of white men seen farther north, and a broken Norse ship's rivet found in Canada hints at a failed expedition. The most haunting clues, though, lie in the bones. Skeletal remains from the final years show signs of malnutrition, but also something darker: cut marks. In one farmstead, a dog's skeleton was found with its skull split open, the marrow scraped clean. Was this a last act of starvation or a grim ritual? And why did no one bother to bury the dead? The church records from Iceland mention a wedding at Valsey in 1408, celebrated with wine and dried fruit. 50 years later, a passing ship found only empty houses, their doors creaking in the wind. Greenland's Vikings didn't just disappear, they faded piece by piece, victims of climate, commerce, and perhaps their own unwillingness to change. Their empty homes stand as a warning not of sudden catastrophe, but of the slow, quiet unraveling of a world. And in their absence, they left behind the ultimate riddle. Were they the last of their kind, or the first to cross a threshold we've yet to discover? The Bayeux Tapestry is more than just a vivid retelling of the Norman conquest. It's a medieval masterpiece dripping with hidden subtext, political spin, and possibly even coded rebellion. At first glance, this 230-foot-long embroidery appears to celebrate William the Conqueror's victory over England in 1066. But look closer, and the threads start to unravel a far more complex story. One where the losers might have secretly stitched their own version of events right under the noses of the victors. Take the infamous scene where King Harold Godwinson, the defeated English ruler, is shown with an arrow in his eye. For centuries, this image was accepted as historical fact, proof of Harold's dramatic demise. But recent analyses reveal something startling. The arrow may have been added later. In earlier reproductions, Harold's hand reaches toward the same spot, suggesting he was originally depicted being cut down by a Norman knight. If true, this tiny alteration transforms the tapestry from neutral chronicle to blatant propaganda, heightening the drama of Harold's death to justify William's invasion. Who ordered the change and why? Then there's the curious case of the marginalia, those bizarre, often overlooked figures embroidered along the top and bottom borders. While the main panels show battles and coronations, the edges teem with fantastical beasts, half-naked figures, and scenes of farming and feasting. Some scholars argue these aren't mere decoration, but a shadow narrative. A fox preying on chickens might symbolize Norman deceit, while a falling naked man could represent Harold's dishonor. Even the recurring appearance of Elfgiva, a mysterious woman shown whispering with a cleric, has fueled theories ranging from scandalous affairs to covert alliances that history books erased. But the boldest secret might lie in the tapestry's very creation. Most assume it was commissioned by Normans to glorify their triumph. However, the stitching techniques and some textual clues hint at English hands at work, possibly noblewomen forced to commemorate their own defeat. Could this explain the tapestry's lingering sympathy for Harold, or the conspicuous absence of William's coronation ceremony? Imagine the quiet defiance of weaving your enemy's triumph while slipping in scenes of Norman soldiers burning homes, or the poignant moment when King Edward the Confessor's deathbed prophecy hints at Harold's legitimate claim. What makes the Bayeux Tapestry so extraordinary isn't just its survival, but its duality. It's a conqueror's trophy and a victim's lament, a public monument and a covert protest. Every stitch holds the tension of a world upended, where history wasn't just written by the winners, it was embroidered by them, with threads of resistance woven right into the fabric. And after nearly 1,000 years, we're still pulling at those threads, unraveling the truth someone hoped we'd overlook. Beneath the bustling streets of modern Rome lies another city entirely, a shadowy labyrinth of tunnels, crypts, and hidden chambers stretching for hundreds of miles. While tourists marvel at the Colosseum and Vatican above, few realize they're walking atop one of history's most expansive underground networks, the catacombs of ancient Rome. But these aren't just burial tunnels, they're a time capsule of rebellion, faith, and survival, carved into the soft volcanic rock by hands desperate to preserve their stories from a world that wanted them erased. Step into the catacombs of Domitilla, and you'll find yourself surrounded by walls lined not with skeletons, but with symbols, fish, anchors, and secret crosses scratched into the stone by early Christians who worshipped here in hiding. At a time when practicing their faith meant death, these winding passages became both sanctuary and burial ground, their twisting paths designed to confuse Roman authorities hunting dissenters. Some tunnels lead to hidden chapels, their ceilings still bearing faded frescoes of saints painted by candlelight. Others dead end into false walls behind which families once huddled during raids. The air is thick with the weight of those who lived and died protecting their beliefs in these silent halls. Yet Christianity isn't the only story written in these stones. Deeper still lie the forgotten cults of Mithras, a rival religion that thrived in Rome's underbelly. Their underground temples, or Mithraea, are eerie in their precision. Vaulted ceilings mimicking the cosmos, altars stained with the blood of ritual bull sacrifices, and carved reliefs showing the god Mithras slaying a cosmic bull, an image some scholars link to astrological events. What's astonishing isn't just their scale, but their secrecy. These temples were often built beneath bathhouses or wealthy estates, accessible only to initiates who underwent brutal trials. One particularly well-preserved Mithraeum beneath the Basilica of San Clement still holds the original stone benches where devotees sat in darkness, absorbing teachings we can only guess at today. But the most startling revelation beneath Rome isn't religious, it's practical. The Cloaca Maxima, an ancient sewer system still in use after 2,000 years, reveals the engineering genius of a civilization that thought in layers. These tunnels weren't just for waste, they were escape routes, smuggling corridors, and even makeshift aqueducts during sieges. Modern scans have uncovered side passages leading to long sealed rooms filled with imperial seals, suggesting emperors used them to move treasures or themselves during crises. When Alaric the Goth sacked Rome in 410 AD, legend claims Emperor Honorius fled through these very drains, his gold-laden carts rumbling through the darkness. What makes Rome's underground so haunting isn't just its scale, but its stubborn refusal to stay buried. Every few years, a sinkhole opens on some busy street, exposing a forgotten Mithraeum or a mosaic floor from a pagan villa. Archaeologists whisper of chambers yet unexplored, possibly holding everything from lost Christian relics to stolen pagan statues hidden by believers fearing destruction. The earth here isn't just keeping secrets, it's waiting for the right moment to spill them. And as long as Rome stands above, its shadow city will keep whispering from below, reminding us that history isn't just written by the victors. Sometimes it's carved in the dark by those who refuse to disappear. Buried under layers of rubble in a forgotten Ottoman fort near the Nile Delta, the Rosetta Stone wasn't just waiting to be found, it was on the verge of vanishing forever. When Napoleon's soldiers stumbled upon it in 1799 during their campaign in Egypt, they had no idea this unassuming slab of black basalt would become the key to unlocking an entire civilization's secrets. But here's the twist: the stone's survival hinged on a single, chaotic moment of European power struggles. Had the British not defeated Napoleon's forces in 1801, the stone might have ended up in Paris, its hieroglyphs still shrouded in mystery. Instead, it was snatched as a spoil of war and shipped to London, where it would ignite a fiery race to decipher the ancient Egyptian script, a race filled with bitter rivalries, political sabotage, and one man's obsessive 20-year quest. At first glance, the stone's importance isn't obvious. It's just a fragment of a larger decree commemorating the coronation of King Ptolemy V in 196 BC. What made it revolutionary was the way the same text was written in three scripts: Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphs. Greek was well understood, Demotic was partially decipherable, but hieroglyphs had been a closed book for over 1,000 years. Scholars realized this was their cipher, a linguistic Rosetta Stone in the most literal sense, but the path to cracking it was anything but straightforward. Enter Jean-François Champollion, a French prodigy who spoke a dozen languages by his teens. While the British held the physical stone, Champollion obsessively studied copies, convinced that hieroglyphs weren't just symbolic but phonetic, a radical idea at the time. His breakthrough came from a single cartouche, an oval enclosing the name Ptolemy. By matching the Greek letters to the hieroglyphs, he identified phonetic sounds, then applied this method to another cartouche, this one for Cleopatra. The patterns matched, but Champollion's rivals, especially English physicist Thomas Young, dismissed his work as guesswork. The tension wasn't just academic, it was nationalistic. Britain had the stone, but France wanted the glory of decipherment. The stone's own history reads like a thriller. After its discovery, French scholars rushed to make copies before the British confiscation, smuggling some out under the noses of their captors. Later, during World War II, the stone was secretly moved to an underground bunker to protect it from Nazi bombs, its location known only to a handful of museum curators. Even today, Egypt demands its return, arguing it's a looted artifact, a claim the British Museum stubbornly resists. What makes the Rosetta Stone so extraordinary isn't just its linguistic role. It's a tangible thread connecting two worlds, the fading ink of an ancient bureaucracy and the ink-stained fingers of 19th-century scholars who refused to let a dead language stay buried. Every translation we have of hieroglyphs, every understanding of pharaohs and their reigns, traces back to this one battered slab, and yet for all its fame, the stone still guards secrets. Nearly a third of the original inscription is missing, lost to time, perhaps waiting beneath the Egyptian sands for another chance encounter. After all, the best secrets aren't always the ones we've uncovered, but the ones still hidden in the cracks. When you look at a dollar bill, you're holding more than just currency. You're gripping a piece of hidden history, that pyramid with the all-seeing eye. Those Latin phrases, they're not random designs. They're fingerprints left by secret societies like the Freemasons, whose influence on America's founding runs deeper than most textbooks dare to admit. This wasn't some shadowy conspiracy. It was happening right out in the open, encoded in symbols and woven into the very fabric of the nation's birth. Take George Washington's inauguration. The first president took his oath of office wearing full Masonic regalia, placing his hand on a Bible from his local lodge. The ceremony itself was orchestrated by fellow Freemason and General Jacob Morton, who, when the Bible was forgotten, sent a runner to fetch the lodge's copy. But the connections go far beyond ritual. Of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence, at least 9 were confirmed Freemasons, including Benjamin Franklin, who later served as head of France's influential Neuf Sowers Lodge. Even the revolutionary slogan, E pluribus unum, out of many, one mirrors Masonic teachings about unity and brotherhood. Then there's the architecture. Washington, D.C. wasn't just planned, it was meticulously designed with Masonic geometry. Pierre Charles L'Enfant, the city's chief architect, embedded sacred proportions into the street grid, aligning key structures with celestial events. The White House, the Capitol, and the Washington Monument form a perfect right triangle with Masonic significance, while the monument itself, an Egyptian obelisk, echoes the Brotherhood's fascination with ancient wisdom. Even the cornerstone of the Capitol was laid in a full Masonic ceremony in 1793, complete with silver plates and corn, wine, and oil materials mentioned in biblical descriptions of King Solomon's temple, the symbolic heart of Masonic lore. But here's where it gets truly intriguing. Some researchers argue that Masonic ideals didn't just shape America's symbols, they shaped its soul. The concepts of religious tolerance, checks and balances, and even the separation of powers all mirror Enlightenment principles championed by Masonic thinkers. Thomas Jefferson's Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness. It reads like a distilled version of Masonic philosophy. Even the Illuminati, though officially disbanded before the Revolution, may have left traces, their advocacy for education and anti-tyranny aligning neatly with revolutionary rhetoric. Of course, not all the theories hold water. The idea that Freemasons secretly controlled the government is easily debunked. Many founding fathers, including John Adams, openly distrusted the organization. Yet the sheer volume of coincidences begs the question: were these men simply products of an era steeped in secret societies, or did they deliberately encode their beliefs into the nation's blueprint? The answer might lie in something far simpler than conspiracy. In a time when free thought could be dangerous, groups like the Freemasons provided a rare space to exchange radical ideas about democracy, science, and human rights away from prying eyes. America wasn't founded by a secret society, but it was unquestionably shaped by minds who knew the power of symbols, the weight of hidden knowledge, and the revolutionary act of speaking in code. So the next time you unfold a dollar bill, remember those symbols aren't just decoration. They're a silent monument to the paradox at America's core, a nation built on transparency yet born from secrets. And whether by design or accident, that tension between the seen and unseen is written right into the foundation, waiting for anyone curious enough to look closer. Beneath the glass pyramids and grand galleries of the Louvre lies a hidden world most visitors never glimpse, a labyrinth of sealed vaults, forgotten relics, and whispered curses. While millions flock to see the Mona Lisa's enigmatic smile, few realize the museum's true secrets are tucked away in dimly lit corridors and locked storerooms, guarded as closely as any royal treasure. Take the infamous Red Room, a restricted basement chamber housing artifacts deemed too dangerous for public display. Among them is the cursed Diana of Poitiers mirror, a 16th century glass said to have driven its owner, the mistress of King Henry II, to madness after she allegedly used it for occult rituals. Staff report inexplicable cold spots near its case, and museum records note a string of odd accidents during its cleaning. Just down the hall rests the Black Prince's ruby, a blood-red spinel later mounted in the British crown jewels. Though dazzling, its history is soaked in violence stolen from a murdered Spanish prince. It's linked to battlefield death spanning 3 centuries. But the Louvre's most closely guarded artifacts aren't just cursed, they're political. In a climate-controlled vault beneath the Denon wing, researchers quietly study Napoleon's lost Kremlin collection, looted during his disastrous Russian campaign. Among the treasures is a gold and ivory icon of St. Nicholas, stripped from a Moscow church in 1812. Russian officials have demanded its return for decades, but the Louvre claims its provenance is unverified, a diplomatic dance around colonial plunder hidden in plain sight. Then there's the mystery of Room 31, officially labeled a textile preservation area. This high-security space reportedly holds a trove of medieval relics too fragile for light, including Charlemagne's lost coronation gloves. But persistent rumors suggest it also shelters artifacts from the museum's darkest chapter, Nazi-looted art still awaiting restitution. In 2013, archivists discovered crates marked with swastikas in a forgotten sub-basement, sparking an ongoing investigation into hundreds of potentially stolen works. Perhaps most chilling is the tale of the Devil's Bible, not an actual text but a hidden compartment behind a false wall in the Richelieu wing, discovered during renovations in 1987. Inside were 3 mummified hands identified by forensic experts as 17th century thieves clutching stolen jewels. The wall behind them bore a single word scratched in Latin, "Predonum," of thieves. Was this a warning, a macabre trophy, or evidence of the Louvre's oldest secret, that some treasures guard themselves? From cursed mirrors to stolen icons, the Louvre's hidden side reveals an uncomfortable truth. Great museums aren't just temples of art, they're vaults of power, conquest, and unresolved history. And while the crowds admire Venus de Milo upstairs, the real stories wait below, whispering through the cracks in locked doors. Some secrets aren't meant to be displayed. They're meant to haunt. Petra's rose-red cliffs have dazzled visitors for centuries, but behind its iconic facades lies a secret even most archaeologists missed until now. Recent scans using ground-penetrating radar and thermal imaging have revealed a hidden network of chambers and tunnels snaking beneath the ancient city, untouched for over 2,000 years. These aren't just empty rooms, they're clues to a forgotten chapter of Petra's history, one that could rewrite what we know about the Nabateans, the ingenious desert traders who carved this metropolis from solid rock. Take the area around the famous treasury, Petra's most photographed monument. For years, tourists marveled at its ornate facade without suspecting what lay beneath their feet. But in 2021, researchers discovered a vast ceremonial complex buried below the courtyard, complete with an underground platform and a series of ritual chambers aligned with celestial events. The real shock came when scans detected a narrow tunnel leading from this complex toward the royal tombs, a passage likely used by priests or rulers during sacred processions. This hidden corridor suggests Petra's grandest buildings were connected not just by surface paths, but by a secret spiritual geography woven into the bedrock itself. Then there's the mystery of the Lost Water Temple. Satellite imagery identified unusual moisture patterns near Petra's ancient dam, prompting excavations that uncovered a submerged chamber with intricate hydraulic channels. The Nabateans were master water engineers, but this discovery takes their skill to another level. The temple's walls bear carvings of aquatic deities alongside mathematical inscriptions, possibly calculations for flood prediction. Some researchers believe it doubled as a secret meeting place for engineers, where they safeguarded the city's most vital knowledge, how to control the desert's scarce water. But the most tantalizing finds are personal. In a previously unknown residential quarter, scans revealed villas with concealed basement workshops where artisans crafted the frankincense and myrrh that made Petra wealthy. Beneath one floor, archaeologists found a sealed jar containing fragments of ancient texts, likely merchant records or religious scrolls preserved by the dry climate. If deciphered, these could reveal trade routes or rituals known only to Nabatean elites. What makes these hidden spaces so compelling isn't just what they contain, but why they were concealed. In a city that thrived on commerce, some secrets were clearly meant to stay buried, whether sacred knowledge, royal treasures, or the blueprints to Petra's survival in the harsh desert. As scanning technology peels back layer after layer, we're left wondering how much more of this lost city remains to be found, whispering its stories from beneath the sand. The Holy Grail isn't just a relic, it's a shapeshifter. Over centuries, its legend has morphed from a sacred cup caught in divine light to a metaphor so flexible it could mean almost anything. Medieval romances like Creation de Troyes' Percival first spun the tale of a radiant vessel with miraculous powers, guarded by a wounded king in a hidden castle. But here's where the mystery deepens. Creation never called it the Holy Grail. That addition came later, when monks infused the story with Christian symbolism, transforming it into the cup of the Last Supper, the very chalice that caught Christ's blood at the crucifixion. Yet even that version splinters into contradictions. Some texts describe it as a stone, others as a dish, even a floating jewel. So how did one object become so many things? The Grail's elusiveness might be the whole point. In Wolfram von Eschenbach's Parzival, written in the 13th century, the Grail isn't just a cup but a cosmic stone called the Lapsit Exilis, dropped from heaven by angels. It grants eternal youth and feeds its guardians with mystical food details that sound more like pagan myths than church doctrine. This blending of traditions hints at a deeper truth. The Grail may have been a literary Frankenstein, stitched together from older Celtic cauldrons of plenty, Byzantine relic cults, and even Sufi mysticism smuggled into Europe through Moorish Spain. Fast forward to the modern era, and the Grail takes on new disguises. Otto Ron, a Nazi archaeologist and rumored inspiration for Indiana Jones villains, became obsessed with locating it as proof of Aryan supremacy, scouring Cathar ruins in southern France. Meanwhile, books like The Holy Blood and The Holy Grail spun a wilder theory. The Grail wasn't an object at all, but the secret bloodline of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, guarded by shadowy orders like the Priory of Sion. Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code popularized this idea, but its roots reach back to medieval heresies that conflated the Grail with sacred femininity, a notion that still fuels conspiracy theories today. So where might the real Grail be? The contenders are as varied as the legends. Valencia Cathedral displays the Santo Cáliz, a simple agate cup dated to the 1st century, while Genoa's Sacro Catino, a hexagonal green dish, was once believed to be carved from emerald. Then there's Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland, its walls brimming with Grail imagery, and the shadowy Shugborough inscription in England, a code on a shepherd's monument that some claim points to the Grail's hiding place. Even Glastonbury Tor, with its Arthurian ties, enters the fray, as if the Grail's legend refuses to settle anywhere for long. Perhaps the Grail's greatest trick is how it mirrors our own obsessions. To knights, it symbolized divine grace; to Nazis, racial purity; to modern seekers, a puzzle to solve. Its power lies not in being found, but in the endless chase, the way it taunts us with the possibility that the ultimate secret might still be out there, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to see it. And that's the magic of the Grail. It's not about the cup, the bloodline, or the stone. It's about what we project onto it century after century, as if the real treasure is the searching itself. Nikola Tesla's lab notebooks read like science fiction towers that could electrify the globe, handheld devices capable of collapsing buildings. Even a supposed death ray, he claimed, could end war itself. But here's the unsettling truth. Much of Tesla's most revolutionary work didn't disappear because it failed. It vanished because it threatened the very foundations of power and profit. Imagine a world where energy wasn't controlled by corporations, but broadcast wirelessly through the air like radio waves. That was Tesla's vision, and by the time of his death in 1943, the U.S. government had seized his research, locking it away under claims of national security. What were they so afraid of? Take the Wardenclyffe Tower, Tesla's ambitious project on Long Island. To most observers, it was just a strange wooden structure with a copper dome. But Tesla insisted it was the key to free global wireless energy. His plan: harness the Earth's natural electrical charge, using the tower to transmit power through the ground and atmosphere, eliminating the need for miles of wires and expensive infrastructure. When financier J.P. Morgan, who'd initially funded the project, realized Tesla's invention couldn't be metered or monopolized, he pulled the plug. The tower was dismantled, and Tesla's notes mysteriously vanished. Decades later, declassified FBI files revealed agents had confiscated boxes of his papers immediately after his death, citing potential military applications. Then there's the eerie case of the Teleforce weapon, what the press sensationalized as Tesla's death ray. In the 1930s, the aging inventor claimed to have developed a defensive beam capable of destroying aircraft from hundreds of miles away. He offered it to multiple governments, including the U.S. and Britain, as a tool to deter war, but no one took him seriously, at least not publicly. Fast forward to World War II, and both the U.S. and Nazi Germany were racing to develop particle beam weapons, with some historians suggesting they'd revisited Tesla's forgotten blueprints. Even today, the Pentagon's interest in directed energy weapons raises eyebrows. Was Tesla's ray just another discarded idea, or did someone quietly pursue it behind closed doors? Perhaps the most haunting mystery is Tesla's missing dynamic theory of gravity, a concept he hinted at in interviews but never published. He claimed it would debunk Einstein's relativity and unlock anti-gravity technology, even boasting of a flying machine that needed no wings or fuel. When he died, the FBI reportedly found a black notebook labeled "Government" in his room, its contents never disclosed. Some researchers believe Tesla's work on resonance and electromagnetic fields might have tapped into principles we're only now rediscovering, like scalar waves or zero-point energy. What makes Tesla's story so compelling isn't just the inventions he left behind, it's the ones we'll never know about. In a world wired for control, his ideas were too dangerous to see the light. And that's the cruel irony. The man who wanted to give humanity limitless power died penniless, his breakthroughs buried in classified archives. But every so often, when a scientist stumbles upon an old patent or a declassified document surfaces, we catch a fleeting glimpse of what might have been and what might still be possible if we dare to look. The Washington Monument isn't just an obelisk, it's a silent cipher, its design whispering secrets from the founder's era. At first glance, it's a straightforward tribute to America's first president. But measure its height, 555 feet, and you'll notice something peculiar. That number mirrors the exact height of the Great Pyramid of Giza in ancient Egyptian units. Coincidence, or a deliberate nod to Enlightenment-era fascination with Egypt as a symbol of wisdom and endurance? The monument's alignment deepens the mystery. Stand at its base during the summer solstice, and you'll see the sun set precisely between the Lincoln and Jefferson memorials, as if tracing a sacred geometry laid out by the city's planners. Then there's the Lincoln Memorial, where symbolism hides in plain sight. The 36 Doric columns encircling the statue don't just represent the states in the Union at Lincoln's death, they're arranged in a precise ratio echoing the Parthenon, linking American democracy to its ancient Greek roots. Look closer at Lincoln's hands, one clenched in determination, the other open in compassion. Sculptor Daniel Chester French insisted this was intentional, capturing the president's dual nature. But some theorists spot an even subtler message. The seated Lincoln's fingers form subtle shapes, possibly the American Sign Language letters A and L, a tribute to French's deaf son and his teacher who championed ASL's recognition. The National Park Service denies this, yet the resemblance is uncanny. Now shift your gaze to the Capitol Rotunda's ceiling. The fresco, The Apotheosis of Washington, shows the first president ascending to heaven, flanked by goddesses Liberty and Victory. Standard patriotic imagery until you notice the strange, almost Masonic details. Washington sits inside a rainbow ring, a symbol some link to alchemical transformation, while 13 maidens representing the colonies form a star pattern matching celestial constellations. Was painter Constantino Brumidi embedding esoteric knowledge or simply borrowing Renaissance motifs? The answer might lie in his other hidden work, a basement corridor called the Brumidi Corridors, where he painted medallions of obscure plants, each allegedly corresponding to herbs used in Freemason rituals. What ties these designs together isn't conspiracy, it's context. The 19th century was obsessed with architectural rhetoric, the idea that buildings should teach moral lessons through symbols. The Washington Monument's marble shifts from pale to darker shades as it rises, subtly acknowledging the nation's struggle with slavery. The Lincoln Memorial's ceiling is adorned with pineapples, not just decorative, but an 18th century symbol of hospitality, hinting at reconciliation. Even the seemingly random placement of the Jefferson Memorial aligns with a key sightline. From its steps, you can see straight to the White House, a visual reminder of the people's oversight of power. The real secret isn't that these monuments hide messages, it's that they shout them in a language we've forgotten how to read. Every measurement, every material, every angle was a conscious choice, a way for the past to nudge future generations toward reflection. So the next time you visit the National Mall, remember, you're not just walking through a park, you're stepping into a conversation across centuries where the stones themselves are speaking, if only we'd stop to listen. From the Sphinx's buried chambers to the Masonic codes in Washington streets, history isn't just written in textbooks, it's etched into the walls of our world, hiding in plain sight. These 30 secrets prove that the past is far stranger, more cunning, and more alive than we ever imagined. Think about it. Da Vinci's paintings whispering hidden messages, the pyramids guarding uncharted tunnels, even Shakespeare's plays potentially masking political rebellion. These aren't just footnotes, they're seismic shifts in how we see civilization's greatest achievements. What ties them all together? The audacity of their concealment. The Templars didn't just hide their treasure, they scattered clues across continents, knowing future generations would chase them. The Nabateans carved Petra's water temple beneath the sand, as if daring us to dig deeper. And Tesla, he left blueprints for world-changing inventions, only to have them vanish into government vaults. These weren't accidents, they were acts of defiance against time itself, a challenge tossed across centuries. Look closer. Now it's your turn. The next time you walk past an old building, study a famous painting, or even glance at a dollar bill, ask yourself, what's the story no one's telling? History's greatest secrets weren't found by chance, they were uncovered by people who refused to take the surface at face value. So tell me in the comments, which of these mysteries shook your worldview the most? Or better yet, what hidden truth should we explore next? Because the past isn't done surprising us, not